Need some help, he says. How soon can you get here? I answered. Getting to me without anyone knowing is the easy part when you're an elite athlete. Call for a plane, grab your security guy, and go confidentially, guaranteed. Typically, the hard part comes when you arrive, whether you're in need of emergency intervention or as a long program or a psychological kick in the ass. Some guys arrive thinking they're going to fill out paperwork and stretch a little, and within the first hour, they've sweated through 3 t-shirts and they're puking in a trash can. But that night, the player and I knew the real issue wasn't physical. It's the end of the season, everyone has injuries, and I'm now going to fix anything major in a few hours. And the team's training staff could have handled the usual aches and pains. Let's be honest, you don't secretly charter a plane and fly 2,000 miles to get iced and taped. We can adapt around the limitations. Here's how you adjust your shot: push off this way, land that way, do this before the game, do that at halftime, get something done to the shoes, ignore the pain for now. You're going to be uncomfortable, get used to it, lay out the whole script, leaving nothing to chance. If he follows the plan, he'll be physically ready to play, or as ready as he can be. But mentally, that's another story, and that's why he made the call to me. He's listening to all the talk about whether he'll be ready to go, whether he can get the job done, whether he's lost a few steps, and now he's not even sure himself. The pressure is getting to him, external pressure that distracts and derails, not the internal pressure that can drive you to overcome anything. And instead of shutting it all out and trusting his instincts and natural ability, he's thinking. He flew 2,000 miles to hear these 2 words: don't think. You already know what you have to do, and you know how to do it. What's stopping you? To the best, whether it's sports or business or any other aspect of life, it's never enough to just get to the top. You have to stay there, and then you have to climb higher, because there's always someone right behind you trying to catch up. Most people are willing to settle for good enough. But if you want to be unstoppable, those words mean nothing to you. Being the best means engineering your life so you never stop until you get what you want. And then you keep going until you get what's next. And then you go for even more. Relentless. If that describes you, this book is your life story. You're what I call a cleaner, the most intense and driven competitor imaginable. You refuse limitations. You quietly and forcefully do whatever it takes to get what you want. You understand the insatiable addiction to success. It defines your entire life. If that doesn't describe you yet, congratulations. You're on a life-changing journey to discover the power you already possess. This isn't about motivation. If you're reading this book, you're already motivated. Now you have to turn that into action. You can read clever motivational slogans all day and still have no idea how to get where you want to be. Wanting something won't get you anywhere. Trying to be someone you're not won't get you anywhere. Waiting for someone or something to light your fire won't get you anywhere. So how are you going to get there? Believe this: everything you need to be great is already inside you. All your ambitions and secrets, your darkest dreams, you're waiting for you to just let go. What's stopping you? Most people give up because everyone has told them what they can't do, and it's easier to stay safe in comfort zone. So they sit on the fence, unable to decide, unable to act. But if you don't make a choice, the choice will be made for you. It's time to stop listening to what everyone else says about you, telling you what to do, how to act, how you should feel. Let them judge you by your results and nothing else. It's none of their business how you get where you're going. It's your relentless. There is no halfway, no could or should or maybe. Don't tell me the glass is half full or half empty. You either have something in the glass or you don't. Decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat. Decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat. Everything in this book is about raising your standard of excellence, going beyond what you already know and think, beyond what anyone else has tried to teach you. Kobe says he wants 6 rings. I want him to have 7. A guy tells me he wants to come back from an injury in 10 weeks. I'll get him there in 8. You want to drop 30 pounds? You'll drop 34. That's how you become unstoppable, by placing no limits on yourself, not just in sports, but everything you do. I want you more and get everything you crave. I don't care how good you think you are or how great others think you are. You can improve, and you will. Anyone else could ever demand of you, knowing that every time you stop, you can still do more? You must do more. The minute your mind thinks done, your instinct says next. What you won't find in this book is a lot of garbage about passion and inner drive. I don't have any feel-good strategies for dreamers who love to talk about thinking outside the box. There is no box. I'm going to show you how to stop thinking about how you're going to think and do something instead. In these pages, you'll hear a lot about champions such as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade and many other successful people in and out of sports. But this isn't a basketball book, and I'm not going to tell you how to be the next Michael Jordan. No one will ever be Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant, Dwayne will be the first to agree. Will you ever play basketball like any of these guys? Probably not. Can you learn from their work ethics and relentless drive and uncompromising focus on their goals? Absolutely. Can you improve your chances of success by learning about others who succeed and those who didn't? Of course. Success isn't the same as talent. The world is full of incredible talent, people who never succeed at anything. They show up, do what they do, and if it doesn't work out, they blame everyone else because they believe talent should be enough. It's not. If you want to be truly successful, you can't be content with pretty good. You need to find an extra gear. Look, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a social worker. I didn't sit in the classrooms for decades doing studies and collecting data to analyze and writing papers on the theories of excellence and elite performance. But I guarantee you that everything I know, everything in this book comes from unlimited access to some of the most excellent elite performers in the world. I understand how they think, how they learn, how they succeed and fail, what drives them to be relentless. It's not the pretty, but it's all the true. Everything I learned from them, everything I teach them, I'm sharing with you here. It's not science, it's raw animal instinct. This book is about following those instincts, facing the truth, and getting rid of the excuses that stand between you and your goals, no matter how complex or unattainable they may seem. No matter how many people tell you it can't be done, it can be done. Here's the key. I'm not going to tell you how to change. People don't change. I want you to trust who you already are and get to that zone where you can shut out all the noise, all the negativity and fear and distractions and lies and achieve whatever you want in whatever you do. To get you there, I'm going to talk about some provocative topics, and you'll get no apologies from me if that makes you uncomfortable. Success is about dealing with reality, facing your demons and addictions, and not putting a smiley face on everything you do. If you need a pat on the back and a good job to get your ass off the couch, this is not the book for you. Because if you want to be unstoppable, you have to face who you really are and make it work for you, not against you. Truly relentless people, the cleaners, are predators with dark sides that refuse to be taught to be good, and whether you know it or not, you do not have a dark side. Use it well, and it can be your greatest gift. If you're aiming to be the best at what you do, you can't worry about whether your actions will upset other people or what they'll think of you. We're talking about the emotion out of this. We're taking the emotion out of this and doing whatever it takes to get to where you want to be. Selfish, probably. Egocentric, definitely. If that's a problem for you, read the book and see if you feel differently afterwards. From this point, your strategy is to make everyone else get on your level. You're not going down to theirs. You're not competing with anyone else ever again. They're going to have to compete with you. From now on, the end result is all that matters. In the case of my late night visitor, he had lost his connection to that end result. He was so distracted by his fear of losing that he couldn't focus on what he had to do to win. Couldn't stem the wave of frustration and emotion that was drowning all his natural ability and confidence. His negativity on the court was evident. He was rolling his eyes at his teammates and coaches, grimacing as if he were dying out there. His teammates began to see that, and suddenly they were like troops marching into battle without their leader, completely shutting down. That's how great teams lose. The leader doesn't show up. It happens in business every day when the boss shows his frustration in meetings or snaps at his employees. He's not confident. He's not cool. He's not on his game. And it comes out in little ways he might think no one else perceives. But you can be sure everyone picks up on it and panics. How do you prevent this panic from turning into a total collapse? Sometimes you need to step away and get back to that calm, cool place where you're in a total control. Could my player have called me to fly to wherever he was? Sure, that happens every season with different guys. They know if they need me, I'm there. But in this case, the players know he needed space and he was willing to risk the consequences if he got caught leaving the team. He knew it was on him to get back into the zone, that deep personality space where you can quiet your mind until you have no thoughts. It's just you and your instincts focusing, unemotional, where you feel no external pressure, just the internal pressure to prove yourself over and over because you want it for yourself, not anyone else. Forget about losing. I tell you, looking for that click behind the eyes when you get to know the guy gets it. forgetting about trying, because if you're just trying, then losing it's still an option. You want to be the best. Then you ignore the pain and exhaustion and pressure to please everyone else. You don't let your enemies take your balls. You don't let them set up shop in your head. When all hell breaks loose and outside of your barely notice, you're calm on the inside, but you're ready to prepare and the best at what you can do. You don't tell anybody how you're going to handle the situation. You just handle it. Everyone else is panicking and choking, and you say, no problem. You step out on the guy's throat, and you finish the fight. And then afterward, you don't explain how you did it. You won't understand, and they don't have to. Just take a moment alone to recognize what you accomplished and move on to the next challenge. By now, it's early morning. His plane is waiting to take him back. Finishing it, I say again, click. He gets it. Time to go. He turns to his security guy and says, we've just been to Oz. Relentless is about achieving the impossible. I know for a fact that anyone can do it. When I was still in high school, just a 5'11 basketball player in Chicago, I was watching a North Carolina game on television and saw Michael Jordan for the first time. He was a skinny freshman with moves I had never seen, completely instinctive and natural. He just knew what to do out there without even thinking about it. I didn't know anything about him, but I knew his kid was going to be a superstar. Several years later, I had a master's degree in exercise sciences working as a trainer at Chicago Health Club, and Michael was still skinny. But now he was a superstar with the Chicago Bulls. I had contacted the Bulls numerous times in the 1980s when I became a trainer, hoping for a shot at working with any of the players. I wrote letters to every player except Michael because I figured if he wanted a trainer, he would already have one. And it wouldn't be a guy like me who was just getting started. No one was interested at this time. Basketball players still weren't into weight training. The old school belief was that a bulky upper body would mess up your shot. Then in 1989, I saw a small newspaper story about how Michael was sick of being outmuscled by the world champion Detroit Pistons and the rest of the league. Once again, I contacted the Bulls and talked my way into meeting with the team doctors, John Hefferson, and the head athletic trainer, Mike Field. What were the chances they would advise their superstar player to work with this unknown trainer who had never trained a professional athlete? None, Everyone said, forget it, impossible. Of course, everything is impossible until someone does it. Michael had worked with a trainer once, injured his back during the workout, and was hesitant about trying it again. Yet he also instinctively knew it wasn't enough to have the greatest basketball skills in history of the game. If he wanted to be more than a legend, if he was truly ignoring to become an icon, he would also need to take his body to the ultimate level, and he was willing to do whatever was necessary to make that happen. So he told John and Mark to find someone who understood exactly what he needed. A few days after my first meeting with the Bulls, they called me to meet again at their suburban practice facility. I figured it was nothing. It was another interview with the training staff. I had no idea I was being taken to meeting Michael Jordan at his home. Michael and I talked for an hour, and I laid out the whole plan, showing him how he would slowly make him stronger and minimize the risk of injury, explaining how every physical change would affect his shot and how he would make adjustments along the way, getting his whole body working in balance for maximum peak performance, and probably extending his career. He listened closely to everything I had to say before he responded. Not possible, he finally said. It's too good. It just doesn't sound right. It's right, I told him. I'll give you 30-day schedule detailing exactly what we're going to do, how it's going to affect your body, your game, your overall strength. I'll tell you you're going to feel so you can adjust to the changes we're going to make. We'll plan what you eat. We'll eat it. When you sleep, we'll look at every detail, leaving nothing to chance. You'll see how everything works together. He gave me 30 days. I stayed for 15 years. When he finally retired, he said, if I ever see you in my neighborhood again, I'm going to shoot you. We learned from each other. We never saw obstacles or problems. We only saw situations that needed solutions. And since there had never been a player like Michael Jordan, we encountered a lot of situations without known solutions. We learned, we made mistakes. We learned from our mistakes. We kept learning. Michael wasn't the best because he could fly through the air and make impossible shots. He was the best because he was relentless about winning. Relentless in the belief that there's no such thing as good enough. No matter how many times he won, no matter how great he became, he always wanted more, and he was always willing to do whatever it took and then some to get it. For more than 2 decades, those values have been the cornerstone of all my work with hundreds of athletes, and now they are the cornerstone of this book, Relentless. Is about never being satisfied, always driving to be the best and getting even better. It's about finding the gear that gets you to the next level, even when the next level doesn't exist. It's about facing your fears, getting rid of the poisons that guarantee you will fail, being feared and respected for your mental strength and toughness, not just your physical ability. Whatever it is in your glass empty is right now, let me refill it from scratch. Forget what you thought about, what you believe, whatever options you have. We start over right now. Empty glass. Those last few drops are the mental barriers that will prevent you from being better. We're going somewhere completely new. Okay, chapter 2 is tomorrow, but I'm going to start the next book. I'm not stopping these. I'm going to go ahead and read the next book. So we are on chapter 2 of that one. Okay, that's the new book. Now, remember I told you I'm reading I Dare You? Let me get back over. This is the book my sister gave me a long, long time ago. I can still remember the way they made me laugh. Okay. This is the book called I Dare You. By William Danford. I always try to say the book and the name of the author so you know what I'm reading. The last book I read is called Relentless. Okay? Are you one of the priceless few? I am on a voyage of discovery. I search for those of you who will go on a great adventure. I am looking for you, one of the audacious few who will face life courageously, ready to strike straight at the heart of anything that is keeping you from your best. You intrepid ones behind whom the world moves forward to you. To you, I am going to unfold a secret power, but few know how to use. The secret power of daring and sharing, which carries with it tremendous responsibilities. Once you have it, you can never be the same again. Once it is yours, you can never rest until you have given it to others. And the more you give away, the greater becomes your capacity to give. Deep down in the very fiber of your being, you must light an urge that can never be put out. I will catch the side of your life. Then that side will widen your horizon. It will light up unknown reservations and discover new capacities for living and growing. It will become, if you don't look out, a mighty conflagration that will consume your every waking hour, and to its blazing glory of thousands of other lives will come for light and warmth and power. It's going to take courage to let this urge possess you. My life is business, and my contacts with young people have convinced me that the world is full of unused talents and latent abilities. The reason these talents lie buried is that the individual hasn't the courage to dig them up and use them. Everybody should be doing better than he is, but only a few dare. Prospects for gold tell us that gold is where they find it. It may be in the bed of a river or on the mountaintop. A prospector for courage tells us the same thing. The one who dares may be found in a cottage or in a castle. But wherever you live, whoever you are, whatever you have or have not, if you dare, you are challenged to enlist in a great cause. H.G. Wells tells how every human being can determine whether he has really succeeded in life. He says, wealth, notoriety, place, and power are no measure of success whatever. The only true measure of success is in the ratio between what we might have done and what we might have been on the one hand, and the thing we have made and the thing we have made of ourselves on the other. I want you to start a crusade in your life, to dare to be better. I maintain that you are a better, more capable person than you have demonstrated so far. The only reason why you are not the person you should be is you don't dare to be. Once you stop drifting with the crowd and face life courageously, life takes on a new significance. New forces take shape with you. New powers harness themselves for your service. Who wants to do unimportant and uninteresting things? Who even wants to gratify an ambition that has grown into passion for fame and fortune, to desire something permanent in life, to develop your gifts to the largest possible use? That's your dare. You have a wealth of possibilities, but maybe up to this time you have lacked a defined aim. You have a gun and plenty of ammunition. Now I dare you to aim at something worthy at the best that is in you. My practical experience has convinced me that inner growth and broadened personality comes from daring and sharing. You dare to use the talents you have. You find yourself growing stronger physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. You multiply your daring 100-fold by sharing its fruits. You give your life away, and behold, a richer life comes back to you. The principle works through all of life. Our most valuable possessions are those which can be shared without lessening those which, when one shares, multiply. Or least valuable possessions are those which, when divided, are diminished. Old or young, rich or poor, man or woman. If you are one of those audacious few willing to dare and then share, then come with me. This book is written for you. I promise you adventure. I promise you more abundant life. Okay, then we go to chapter 3, which will be tomorrow on page 8 of that one, I Dare You. So we got to the next page of I Dare You, and I fold the page down. All right, we have 2 more. 2 more, and then we're done. All right. Chesty Puller. We are on chapter 2. Chesty Puller. Remember I told you when I read, I usually read chapters or books at a time. Okay? But I try to read 3 to 4 different chapters. Otherwise, I read the whole book through, and then I have to read it again and again and again in order to understand it. But the whole point of this is I'm reading 4 different books right now because I kind of got into a couple other ones. So this one is The Marine, Chesty Puller. Okay? Okay, so this is called The Fledgling. Chapter 2, The Marine, The Life of Chesty Puller by Burke Davis. Okay? I love this book. I actually sent my mentor book, and I stamped it with the Marine Corps League emblem in the back. But I actually sent this book to my mentor. That's how much I love this book. Okay. Lewis was the only man to board the train at Richmond. But 400 or 500 Marines recruits from the north kept the cars lively all night and the next day until they reached a remote siding in the South Carolina low country at Yosemite. A tugboat and barge bore them to Paris Island, where they are herded into the quarantine station. A few rows of tents in the sand dunes. There they surrendered their civilian clothes and were issued utilities, pajamas, cots, and blankets. 6 days later, Puller marched with others from quarantine to the supply depot, where he drew his uniform and equipment, shouldered his sea bag, and marched to their new camp by the maneuver grounds. That night, they were issued rifles, Springfield 1903s. They spent hours cleaning and oiling the weapons. By daylight the next morning, they were through breakfast, had tried on their uniforms, policed their camps, and were on the parade ground. They formed companies. The drill instructor of Puller's company was a towering Paris-born Dane, Corporal John Despard, an athlete who spoke 6 languages and a student of history who had walked the battlefields of Schleswig-Holstein in his youth with his father. Despard soon noticed the soldierly Lewis Puller and marched around to face him. "What's your name?" "Private Puller, sir." "Repeat." Lewis growled it again with such a spirit that the Tsar thought he must be one of the hardened veterans of the Philippine fighting. Within 3 days, Despard decided that Puller was the natural leader of the company and gave him a platoon to handle. Lewis took to it off like a veteran, and on the first afternoon had his men going passably through squad movements, a process usually required 2 or 3 days. Within a week, Puller had the platoon on his own. Despard expressed his amazement to his sergeant. "I know he looks like he ought to be in a 3-cornered pants, but by God, he's a Marine. He looks as if he must sleep at attention. You know, I always have to tell him to look mean and nasty out there marching, but I never had to tell him he's a natural and he never makes the same mistake twice. He's already made the company number 1 for parades, and he did it by himself." "A perfect DI, the sergeant said. "We can use him, drive him. They're pushing us to get him ready for overseas in a couple weeks." Once a week there was a sunset parade, and on Saturday morning the commanding general inspection, under the eyes of General Jack Myers, a Medal of Honor man from the siege of Peking, who seemed to Lewis the ideal of the officer. He could not fail to see, however, that the camp was actually run by 2 brothers by the names of Broadstrom and Major and veteran gunnery sergeant, who had become a warrant officer. They helped shape Puller's opinion that formed enlisted men as officers were superior to graduates of academies of colleges. They trained at the recruit camp, went on for 2 months, following by 2 weeks off the rifle range, where an instructor stood over every recruit with a swagger stick. When they missed, the sticks rapped hard on their heads. Puller got no raps. I don't know where, Despard told his sergeant, but he learned it somewhere. He knows how. Despard examined Puller on military history and beat a retreat. "Hell, he gives me an inferiority complex. I've read some, but that kid knows von Clausewitz backwards, and guys I've never heard of by the dozens. He's some kid. This stuff is like religion with him. He takes it all in, the stuff about the Huns and their atrocities. He hates them like sin. The non-coms admire Puller's work on the bayonet field, where big signs read, 'Advance to kill.' Despard set Lewis against the biggest men, but Puller was too far fast for them and inevitably beset his opponents. Puller was among the 5% of the class chosen for non-commissioned officer school and went into drill instructors training under Captain Jimmy Wyatt, a a spectacular, profane, and ungrammatical old Marine who taught minor tactics and steeped the recruits in the duties of guard troops, squad leaders, and sergeants. Lewis met a fellow Virginia, Tom Pullen, the cheerleader who had yelled for him at William and Mary football game long ago. They went into drill instructor school together, but both mourned the departure of their old company to France, where they were to be used as replacements. For 2 months, the class went through intensive drills in the bayonet, rifle, boxing, judo, and infantry drill. One October evening, they were told that they were shipping for Europe, and Polar and Pullen went in with their group to the mainland and entrained for Quantico. The two Virginia boys used their first hours of liberty in months by walking about the little marine town, staring at civilians and into store windows. Then went into a restaurant where, after solemn deliberation, each ordered $1 worth of ham and eggs. Despite the obvious waning of the war in Europe, there were uncertainty, and the battalion remained on the base, training in trench warfare in the middle of ditches in sections dubbed the Chautte Theory. One day, the men were told that their orders had come, and they packed to leave for home, New Jersey, to ship out for France. The move was postponed for several days until Armistice Day canceled the orders. The replacement battalion was then reinforced by other troops and sent to San Diego to help put down the rebellion there. San Domingo to help put down the rebellion there. But Polar was once more sidetracked from combat. He was detached and sent to the 3rd Officers Training School. He told Tom Polar, "I'm going to stay in the Corps. One way or another, I'm qualified for it. I don't know about civilian life." The winter was unusual bad, and the students spent much of it in the wet, snow-filled pits of Chautte-Thierry, learning the details of trench fighting. Lewis already began to suspect that General Pershing's real contribution in Europe was to get the Germans out of the trenches and return to open warfare after 4 years of senseless slaughter. Polar looked at the Virginia trenches with an eye to how they might be flanked and their occupants defeated. His instructors found that when called upon in class, he had ideas of his own, expressed them belligerently, and could not be influenced by rank or position. There were several gifted instructors: Captain William Repetus, who had become a Marine general; Eric Jansen, the future movie star; Dr. Frank Graham, a future university president and the United Nations official; and Franz Parkin, who became head of the National Council of Independent Schools. Polar graduated in June, ranking 128th in his class with the final average of 2.91. He became a second lieutenant on June 4th. 2 weeks later, when he had finished machine gun school, the end of the war brought a huge cut in the Marine Corps. On June 16th, Polar was discharged with hundreds of others of his rank, and he was at loose ends. He had been a Marine officer for 2 weeks. He went to West Point for a few days, and then with a friend, ex-Lieutenant Lawrence A. Muff, he went north to enlist in a Polish-American army, then being raised in a Long Island band of European to help liberate the Poles. They stopped in Washington and quite by accident met Captain Ruptis of Marine headquarters. "What are you boys doing?" When they explained the plight of Poland and their plan to enlist, Ruptis countered, "If I were you, I'd go down to Haiti. You'll get commission in the constabulary down there. They need men, and there's plenty of fighting. You'd see action and have some fun." Polar Muth went into a hallway and discussed the matter briefly, and though Polar still yearned for the battlefields of Poland, he agreed to sign the Jornada de Haiti. Lewis had a few more days at home, then found himself in Charleston, South Carolina, with Muth, boarding a transport for Haiti. He was barely 21 years old. Chapter 3 tomorrow. Chapter 3 will be page 20. Okay, last one, then I got to get back to work. Sorry, I've got some people calling me. But I got one more. Remember, we're reading The Art of War right now. By Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Okay? Next chapter is short. Okay, this is the next chapter, and it's short. It's only 3 pages. Tactical Disposition. Remember, this is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, special edition. 1. Sun Tzu said, "The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat and waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy." 2. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. 3. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. 4. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. 5. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. 6. Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength, attacking a superabundance of strength. 7. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost highest of heaven. Thus, on the one hand, we have ability to protect ourselves, on the other, a victory that is complete. 8. To see victory only when it is within the keen of common herd is not the acme of excellence. 9. Neither is the acme of excellence if you fight and conquer and a whole empire says, well done. 10. To lift... Give me a second here. 10. To lift an autumn hair is no sign of great strength. To see the sun and moon is no sign of sharp sight. To hear the noise of thunder is no sign of a quicker ear. 11. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins but excels in winning with ease. 12. Hence his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. 13. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. 14. Hence the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. 15. Thus it is that in war the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterward looks for victory. 16. The consummated leader cultivates the moral law and strictly adheres to the method and discipline. Thus, it is his power to control success. 17. In respect a military method, we have firstly measurement, secondly estimation of quantity, thirdly calculation, fourthly balance of chance, fifthly victory. Okay. 18. Measurement owes its existence to earth, estimation of quantity to measure, calculation to estimation of quantity, balance of chances to calculation, and victory to balance of chances. 19. A victorious army opposes to a routed one is as pound weight places its scale against a single grain. And last, 20. The onrush of conquering force is like the bursting of pent-up waters into a chasm of 1,000 fathoms deep. The Art of War. All right. Tomorrow's 5, chapter 5 tomorrow. Okay. And that was we'll be starting page 19 tomorrow. Now, if you notice something about all these different books written over a bunch of different time, okay, they all connect. Anyway, tomorrow's books. We read the Little Red Book yesterday. We're reading Money Mindset Outside the Book by Brian Carruthers. Okay, remember, Money Mindset. That's Brian Carruthers. If you see a bunch of pictures on my Facebook, that's him and I. If you're me, then who am I? Okay. Now, in case you're wanting to know about how many books, I'll see if I can turn this over here. These are books I'm reading right now. Like I said, books will get you ahead in life. All right, everybody. I will talk with you later. God bless.